Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhishek Jain, and I'm pleased to invite you all to the second episode of the Fellowship series by Planty. Towards the end of this session, we will also be having a Q&A session for which I would request you all to put your questions in the live chat box. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Deepa Parameshwaran, a graduate of the 2017 batch of the School of Planning and Architecture in Mysore. She has also served as a community consultant at Plansform and was awarded the Teach for India Fellowship in 2018. She is currently working as an English teacher at Sayadari School. In today's session, Deepa will be speaking in detail on the application process to the Teach for India Fellowship, as well as the opportunities that are available both during and after completing this fellowship. I would now like to hand it over to Deepa to begin the session.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. A warm welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining me as I share my experiences about the Teach for India Fellowship, what I take from it, and how my choice-making process has been. I'm currently working as an English teacher in Sayadri School in Pune, which is a residential school run by Krishnamurti Foundation. I joined in May 2020 and I have been involved in conducting online classes for grades 4 and 7. Prior to this, I was a Teach for India Fellow at a Kannada medium government school in Bangalore, where I taught English and math to the same set of students in grades 6 and 7. I hold an undergraduate degree in architecture, which is a 5-year course with a final year thesis project. I chose to do my thesis on Juvenile Rehabilitation Center since I've been interested in exploring areas that fall at the intersection of design and sociology. As a part of my case studies and analysis, I got a chance to engage with the state of juvenile justice and child care, which for me was a very displacing experience. It was a lived experience that was very different than mine, very different from what I have encountered, things that I have read about, but not necessarily have been engaged with. So this raised a lot of questions and thoughts in my mind. So post my graduation, I was keen on making a switch to the social sector, especially work with children with an intention to learn and expose myself to a different experience. That is when I came across the Teach for India Fellowship. So what is the Teach for India Fellowship? The Teach for India Fellowship is a 2-year program that works primarily in the education sector, as a part of which you'll be working as a teacher in an underprivileged school in an urban or semi-urban area. Its core purpose is to develop English literacy skills and math skills in students. Students from grades 2 to 10, it differs from city to city. For the fellow, the program focuses on skill development for workforce in the development sector, again, primarily education, and it seeks aspirants who will committedly engage with a civic purpose to contribute to society. It is currently functioning in 7 cities: Delhi, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. Pune and Mumbai were the founding cities, and Bangalore is the newest. The fellowship program started there in 2015. The fellowship also offers a stipend of 20,000 rupees, approximately 20,000 rupees, plus housing rent allowance, which again differs from city to city based on the real estate conditions. Who can apply and when to apply? The fellowship is open for anyone with an undergraduate degree, any undergraduate degree. That is the minimum eligibility. There are 4 selection cycles starting from July to March each year. Once selected, you will have a 5-week training period between April and May, which I'll share more about later. And then the academic year starts in June, July. So you start your fellowship as soon as your academic year, school academic year starts. You have to apply through the official website only, which is teachforindia.org. Here there are some differences with respect to the selection and application process. There are some differences from when I had applied for it, which was in 2017, and the current process, because the organization has also undergone some program changes. So I would strongly suggest that you go through the website and possibly talk to someone who's currently a fellow or has applied to it recently to understand it in a detailed manner. But basically, there are 3 stages in the application and selection process. The first is an application form, which consists of some basic details about you and your educational background, a statement of purpose essay, and there's an aptitude and English proficiency test as well. That is something that's new, the test. Post reviewing your application, if you're selected to the next stage, there will be a phone interview. The purpose of this phone interview is to understand your interest in the fellowship, what are some skills that you already have and how have you demonstrated them. And possibly there may be questions about what you would like to pursue post the fellowship, but mainly it's about to understand your interest in the fellowship. Post this, if selected after the phone interview, you will undergo what is called an assessment center, where you will be teaching a pre-planned 5-minute lesson out of options that will be provided to you beforehand. So it could be grade 4, a particular topic in English, grade 8, a particular topic in science. So you prepare for that and go to the assessment center and present a 5-minute lesson. There will be other candidates there as well. So you will also have a group discussion with the other candidates, which will test for your communication skills, your collaborative skills, and problem-solving abilities. Post this, there will be a personal interview. This happens on the same day as the assessment center, where there will be a face-to-face one-on-one interview. Again, I strongly suggest you go through the website to understand the process, because there may be slight differences from what I'm sharing to what is actually happening this year. So please do go through the official website to understand it a little better. One more thing, the application form will also capture details about which city would you prefer to do your fellowship in, and also the area within the city where you would like to be placed. Again, that depends from city to city. It could you definitely have to choose a city out of the 7 where Teach for India is currently functioning. And the area preference, when I say it, the schools that have collaborated with Teach for India will be specific to certain areas. So there would be a list of options that you have to choose from, and not necessarily feed in whatever is suitable for you. You will have to choose from whatever is available. What must you consider before applying to the fellowship? This is, again, my personal suggestions, but I strongly think that you should deliberate deeply and honestly about these questions. One is, what is my purpose in pursuing this fellowship, and why am I looking for a fellowship in the education sector specifically? What's the personal motivation that's driving you towards this? Because currently there are all kinds of fellowship that various organizations are providing. There's a fellowship called Young India Fellowship. There are programs offered which have more to do with art and culture. There are also fellowships where you get a chance to work with a particular ministry of the government. So if your interest lies in the social sector, but not necessarily education, it's worth thinking about, why am I looking for the Teach for India Fellowship, which is very specific to the education sector. And also very clearly try to articulate what your purpose is in pursuing this. What do you hope to learn from it? Of course, there is this factor of, I would like to contribute to the community, contribute to the society. All that is great, but it's very important to deliberate how it is fitting into your plans and your interests and your personal motivation, because the next 2 years will be very rigorous and very time consuming. It could even get erratic. So it's worth thinking about how this is going to fit into your plans, because it is going to disrupt the next, if selected and you go on to do the fellowship, it kind of disrupts your general sense of structure and such, and you will have to contribute in large way to what the fellowship demands from you. So definitely try to articulate what you are trying to learn from it, or what you're trying to gain from it, and how it's fitting into your personal motivation and plans. And what is something you would like to pursue after the fellowship? So I will talk a little bit more about what opportunities usually present themselves during and post the fellowship. So that might help with this question. But it's if you are a person who does plan out well ahead, then it's definitely good to be clear about what is it that you're going to pursue after your fellowship. So what happens if once you're selected? So I mentioned there's a training program. There's a 5-week training program, which is rigorous, and it comprises of a comprehensive toolkit on classroom management, subject-wise pedagogy, and other aspects of being involved in a school system. It focuses on knowledge as well as skills and competencies required to function as a teacher in a school environment. During this training, you not only have sessions, but you engage in teaching a set of students in what is called a summer school program. So while the training period is happening, which is during April, May, it's usually summer vacations for most schools. So parents send their children to what is called a summer school, like a camp, where you would be mainly teaching them English and math. And these students will come usually from an underprivileged background, and therefore you begin to expose yourself to some aspect of what your next 2 years are going to look like. Towards the end of your training period, you will be informed of your placement school, the grade that you will be teaching, and the subjects that you will be teaching as well. The training period, one more thing, the training period is only a starting off point for learning. You will rest assured you will not be 100% ready to go and teach whatever it is, however you wish to, once you finish the 5-week training. Because once you're in your respective schools, in your respective placement city and area, there are going to be regional variations with respect to what is being learned, the school structures and procedures, and the kind of people you're surrounded with respect to the school staff and your students, and even who is going to be your manager, and what is the expectation. Like you will spend some time in that school. The first couple of months in your school, in your city, would just go and trying to understand what the context is, and there's a lot of learning involved there as well. So the 5-week training program is just a starting off point. And the learning is just continuous. It happens throughout, even after you begin your fellowship as such. And the whole experience is very subjective. So I cannot necessarily guarantee or list out that these are the skills or competencies that you will learn, or these are the knowledge pieces that you're going to acquire. So because it's going to be very subjective for each and every one of us. The schedule for the next 2 years will be pretty systematic. You will have a classroom. So once you're done with your 5-week training period, you are in your city, and your main core job is to teach in your assigned grade, the assigned subject, as per the school timetable and schedule. So the schedule for the next 2 years will be very systematic. You will have classroom observations, you will have meetings with your manager, you will have training sessions again in the city at regular intervals. You will have city conferences which deal more with just awareness of what is happening in the education sector, and research and discussion, and engaging with people perhaps from the government or from other organizations who create. So here you have this experience where you are exposing yourself to different aspects of the education sector, which is outside of just your classroom and just your school context. So all of these events happen in a very regular and systematic manner. Teaching is also a full-time job, so you are expected to be in school for the entire duration of the school hours, which is again different from city to city, but approximately, let's say, 6 hours. So even in those 6 hours, if your assigned period in the school timetable is for 1 hour or 2 hours, you are expected to be in school for the entire duration of 6 hours. Teach for India as an organization also provides opportunities where you can work with the staff on particular projects, you can work with other fellows, you can collaborate with other fellows and start your own projects depending on what is the problem or pain point that really appeals to you, that you wish to engage with and that you wish to solve for. So you have the liberty of starting your own projects as well, or work with the staff on existing projects. So I would like, so moving on to what my fellowship experience has been like. My fellowship experience was challenging, but also full of learning. Again, this is going to be, I would just like to reiterate that this is going to be very subjective because we all differ as individuals and the skill set that we come with will be different, what we hope to learn will be different, and how we respond to various things in our context will be different. Even the values that we carry, the timeline that we are in while we are doing the fellowship, all of that is different from how I would have experienced it. So do keep in mind that whatever I'm sharing with respect to my experience is very, very subjective. So my purpose was to explore and learn more about a context that is different from what I have grown up in and make it a part of my lived experience. So as I mentioned before, I taught English and math to 44 students in grades 6 and 7 in a Kannada medium government school in Bangalore. Most of the students were from migrant communities. There was a mix of Hindus and Muslims in class. There was a mix of languages. There was English being spoken, Hindi, Kannada, Urdu, Telugu, Tamil, and even some tribal languages. There were first generation learners, that is students who are coming to school for the first time. They are the first ones in their family who are coming to school. So first generation learners. There were students with learning disabilities, and then there were students who were academically very high performing as well. So 50% of my class were with Teach for India from their 4th grade, meaning they had Teach for India fellows coming in and teaching them from the time they were in 4th grade. And 50% of my class was completely new to this Teach for India structure. So the part of the class, the percentage of the class which has been with Teach for India for a while would have acquired some sense of the English language and certain skills and foundational math, whereas it is very much possible that the other half or the other percentage that is completely new to your class might not be as adept as the students who have undergone a Teach for India structure. One of the major challenges for me in my school environment was it was extremely unstructured. There was there were definite timings for the school, but within those timings, it wasn't a structured timetable which was being followed. There was a lot of malpractice when it came to exams and assignments and such. Lot of violence in various ways. My classroom was the largest in size in the school, and it is said to have caused the largest share of problems in the school. So the first few months were extremely challenging and difficult. And as I mentioned, the first few months goes in just trying to understand the school, understand the children, build relationships with the children and with the school staff, and just get a sense of what actually a school structure is from the perspective of a teacher. We've all been in schools as a student, or as even in a college as a student, but unless you have a B.Ed or M.Ed, it's very challenging to understand. It takes time to understand and absorb the school environment as a teacher. So something that worked really well for me was building a relationship with the children as individuals and not just as students of a particular subject in my classroom. Every day was challenging. There would be something or the other that would come up. And even though it was, especially because I think it was a government school, there would be a lot of unpredictable events and occasions cropping up which would disrupt the entire day. But there were some really good days too. Something that I felt that my students took away from me was to ask questions about the violence that they were being subjected to and not to internalize it. And I also tried to create a diverse range of experiences for them through art classes, other co-curricular activities. Since I have an architecture background, I did start a project with another fellow, which was called Color Munch, which was an art and education program, so skill building through art. So that is something I executed in my class and in different classrooms within the same school. I use different strategies of facilitating lessons where I try to build a lot of ownership and leadership in the students to take accountability of their own learning and their own selves. Something that I have taken away from my Teach for India experience was a lot of questions about the public school system with respect to how children learn, how cognitive abilities in a language develop, and how teachers think, how systems work, what development really means. And it built a lot of conviction in me to pursue a career in teaching, and it has made me very keen in what teacher training and teacher development looks like in the education sector. I've also found myself believing vehemently in the power of self-reflection and developing a sense of inquiry and civic engagement. It is also, the whole experience has also challenged a lot of biases, and in that itself lay a lot of learning. When a lot of my biases, my preconceived notions and my prejudices were challenged and questioned at different points, I think I learned a lot from that as well. So it's 2 years of hard work with the impact that you desire to make, shaping very slowly, if at all. However, it will be very fulfilling if your purpose is to engage with the social sector and be cognizant of the variables that are present in the system apart from you, which are out of your control. Unless most of them are favorable, it is often extremely challenging to make a sweeping impact. But it's not that you don't leave any impact at all. It could also be very retrospectively that you, when you think back and reflect on your experiences, when you're able to make nuanced connections and understand that that was an impact that perhaps you didn't intentionally make, but it has happened. So being aware of that, being compassionate with yourself and your students, and being intentional in being an observer and a learner is very important. I also developed a passion for teaching, which was deeply motivating for me throughout the fellowship. So, but it is very much possible that you might dislike that aspect of it and may wish to engage with school or community development or in developing co-curriculars, all of which you can do, all of which you have the opportunity and liberty to do. But do keep in mind that the primary requirement of you as a Teach for India fellow from the school system and from the fellowship is to be a teacher. Post my fellowship, I wish to engage with a different context. So when I say different context, that I'm thinking more in terms of the economic backgrounds that the students come from and learn from an alternate school environment. So I was especially curious about the theory and practice of language learning. And that is how I ended up in my current position as an English teacher in Sahyadri School. So I would like to share a little bit about what happens post the fellowship. Just give me a minute. Yes. So post your fellowship, there's a career fair that happens at the end of 2 years, one of which is internal, where positions within the Teach for India organization are offered. These can be management positions, teacher training related, it can be networking related, or some leadership positions as well. The other is the external career fair, where other NGOs, other non-profits or for-profits engaged in the education sector mainly come with particular job descriptions. There will be teaching roles, there will be content and curriculum development roles, teacher training roles, program and project manager roles, research and advocacy roles, and some corporate roles as well, such as recruitment, human resources, and corporate social responsibility and such. There are many who opt for a master's program of their choice as well, either in India or abroad. So, what you wish to do post your fellowship, I think it would be good to have some clarity on if you would like to move on to working in the social sector or study something related to perhaps the development sector, because that gives a continuum and it binds your experiences from the fellowship together. But of course, it's a personal choice, and you may choose to move back to whatever background it is that you are coming from. Perhaps you, if let's say I did architecture, if I wish to move back to architecture, I can very easily do that as well. And even with postgraduate studies, if you wish to do an MBA or MS, those opportunities are open to you as well. So there is no dearth of opportunities as such once you are done with your fellowship. Also, the 2 years of fellowship does count as work experience. It does count as work experience whenever you are applying for jobs later. I would just like to share a little bit about my choice making process, and then I'm done. I can take questions after that. So my choice making process has been primarily based on creating diverse experiences for myself, which help me in making meaning of the world and my purpose in it. I value social purpose very deeply and learning continuously from diverse perspectives. And teaching has been a platform that has satisfied both of those conditions for me. I have been very intentional in shifting to the education sector from architecture, and I consider my architecture degree as a backbone that has prepared me with certain skills and mindset for it, which are still being honed. It is still a process, so it's continuously being built. I'm intent on building skills and mastery in teaching and teacher training. So I make my decisions at work accordingly. I engage with external resources. I read a lot and reflect on my teaching practices and ethics continuously. I also do not have this is key as well while you are making this decision, that what your financial background primarily is. I do not have a financial constraint, which has enabled me to make choices that give me job satisfaction at the end of the day. So for the 2 years, the stipend that you would be getting would be around 20,000 rupees plus house rent allowance, which has its own conditions with respect to each city, how much you get. So it depends on your lifestyle. If you have if you're used to living in a city and have a luxurious kind of a lifestyle, that might be hard to keep up with the stipend that is being offered. So, but again, you can think if you're willing to compromise that for the experience that you're going to get from the fellowship. So definitely also think about your financial background and resources when you're applying for the fellowship. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to share about the fellowship. I hope it has been useful. I'd love to answer questions if there are any.
Thanks a lot, Deepa. I think that was a very, very informative and detailed session. So thanks for that. Moving to the Q&A session, I do have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
So I think my first question is that given that the Teach for India Fellowship is a 2 year engagement and it's a fairly long term engagement at that, how do you think BArch students could ascertain that, okay, this is something I most definitely want to and can do for 2 years with no complaints? And if there's any kind of experience that they could probably do during their time at School of Architectures to actually get that kind of a feeling that, okay, this is what I meant to do.
Okay, so one is if with before you engage with the fellowship or even start thinking about it, just to understand if this is something that you're interested in at all, one thing to do would be just to volunteer wherever you get a chance to. So there are organizations like Make a Difference, and if you are based in a Teach for India city, the Teach for India also offers volunteering positions where you get to go and maybe assist a teacher, assist a fellow, or even take classes. So you get a sense of what the experience is like. So I think that that would give you, and it doesn't necessarily, when I say volunteering, it doesn't necessarily have to be with respect to you being in a classroom or being a teacher as such. It could be just maybe going and sitting down with children and maybe taking an art session, or just sitting down and talking to them, or taking something for them and playing games with them, right? So it could be any of those things. It would be good to gauge like how you feel about being around children, because you will be around children for 2 years and it's a little all consuming, especially since you're going to be working with the same set of kids for 2 years. You learn so much about them. So you become, it's very natural to get very involved, especially if you're a fresher. It's very natural to get very involved in it. So it would be good to look for volunteering opportunities. And okay, if none of those options are available, it would be good to talk to as many people as you can about this. So now you've heard from me about what experience I have had. You can try to get in touch with other fellows who are currently doing their fellowship, people who have finished their fellowship, people who have thought about doing the fellowship perhaps but didn't go through with it. If you could get in touch with all, and not necessarily the Teach for India Fellowship, right? You could always just talk to, maybe you have a friend or a relative who's a teacher. You can just talk to them. So talk to as many people as possible and get a sense of what their experiences have been like. So I think that should give you a fairly good idea of if this is something you can commit to or not. One more thing I probably should have mentioned is that you do have the option of leaving the fellowship perhaps after a year or after a couple of months, if it becomes too strenuous or too disengaging for you. But it is not recommended, of course, because you would be leaving, if you're leaving, especially after a couple of months, you're leaving in the middle of an academic year, and that becomes extremely challenging for the students as well as the organization and the school to adjust and accommodate for. But the option is there. It depends on like who you are as a person and how you're feeling about it at that particular point. And if you really feel the need to leave and you feel that this is not my purpose and I can't do it anymore, which is natural, there's nothing wrong with that, you do have that option as well. But yes, it takes a lot of commitment, and it would be good to engage yourself in volunteering in some way, or just talk to as many people as possible.
Yep, I think that's a very, very fair answer. So thanks for that. My second question is actually with respect to the application process itself. So, do you think there's anything that an architecture student should or can do to actually increase the chances of them being selected as a fellow?
Okay, I don't know about increase the chances, because again, that becomes a very subjective thing. I can say certain things that I have done as an architecture student, which I included in my application form. So most architecture students would be familiar with the student body, the national student body called National Association of Students of Architecture. They conduct annual competitions, in inter-college annual competitions, as well as zonal level competitions. So I was an active part of that. So that shows for my collaborative skills. And I was also leading a team towards my third year with respect to the student body itself. So that accounts for certain leadership skills. And again, if you have things like we didn't have that in our college, we didn't have college fest as such, but if you have college fest in such, assuming roles of responsibility, working in teams, these might seem very small, but then putting it all together and how you articulate it, and articulating it in a manner where you are able to communicate that you have been able to work well in a team or lead a team in a healthy manner, and that you have also learned something out of that experience, would be good to add in your application, definitely. So look for opportunities where in your college where you can engage with teamwork. So it could also be we also did have a semester where which was purely group work within our batch itself. We were divided into different groups and we were working on a project continuously throughout the entire semester as a group. So that's again group work, and how did you contribute to that, and what are some skills you displayed as a team member, and how did that help the team? What is something that you took away from the team? So these things definitely, so these are that you can definitely put together, we think would be an added advantage. So you have to try to dilute most of your activities and participation in whatever nature it may be throughout your architecture degree into skills and competencies that you have developed or that you wish to develop.
All right, I think that's a very interesting answer. And with that, I think I come to the last question for today. So, do you think that as an architecture student, you had any kind of edge over students coming from different backgrounds, either in the application process or in the fellowship itself? And as a follow up to that, do you think there are any transferable skills that you take from your BArch degree into the fellowship, which could be an added advantage for you?
Okay. So, could you repeat the first part of the question once again?
Yep, sure. So the first part of the question was, is there, so one was with respect to the transferability of skills. And the second question was with respect to if there is anything that gives you an edge as an architectural student over students from different backgrounds.
Okay. I don't think that being an architect, having a background in architecture has given me an edge. It all comes down to how you articulate your experiences. I don't think it matters what degree or what background you hold, but definitely how you articulate it is something that's very key. And with respect to transferability of skills, I can't speak for skills, but I think there are certain mindsets that I have developed as an architecture student, which has helped me in teaching, and which has kind of evolved through teaching as well. One which is very key is to be open-minded. It sounds very simple and very broad perhaps, but as an architecture student, any architecture student would have undergone this, where you have perhaps designed something and you think that that's the best design that you could put forth, and then you have a review or a jury where it's just torn to pieces, and it definitely hurts your self-esteem in some way. But then when you reflect back on that experience, it makes you realize that it is a matter of opinion at the end. It's a matter of, because it's design, it's a creative field, it is to do with the artistic sensibility of each and every person. So I think that is a realization that I had around my third year of architecture, and that made me a very open-minded person with respect to just accommodating and listening to the different perspectives that were coming around with respect to my design. And that is something that I have carried forward with me as a teacher as well. Just being open-minded to different ideas, different experiences, different perspectives to the same experience, all of this. So that is one thing. And another thing I would say is being able to collaborate, since as I mentioned, I have been involved in a lot of teamwork, and I have picked up a lot of collaborative skills through that, just in terms of how you communicate with each other, how you problem solve together, how do you keep the space open and safe for everybody to contribute and feel comfortable in. And that's not just the responsibility of, let's say, a team lead, it's the responsibility of each and every person. So this is something that comes in very handy when you're taking a class. You need to create a safe space, you need to create a comfortable space, you need to keep the space open, and even though you might be the teacher there, you are also collaborating with the students to ensure that everybody is getting something out of it. So these two things mainly, just one is a mindset of open-mindedness is something that I have carried forward, and just collaborative and communicative skills.
All right, I think that was a very good answer. And with that, I think that takes me to the end of the Q&A session for today. So thanks for that. And I think with that, I would just like to take this opportunity on behalf of Team Plant for thanking you to take the time out for this wonderful session. And I do hope that this helps a lot of students in the future when they're making such decisions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.